Okay, at the launch of the 2022 EirGrid GAA Football Under-20 All-Ireland Championship was Armagh Under-20 manager Oisín McConville. EirGrid, Ireland's grid operator, is charged with delivering a cleaner energy future for Ireland. Coach with Armagh, how are you finding the role, Oisín?
Yeah, enjoying it. It's much different, I suppose. It's nice being back involved with a county setup, I suppose. Done a good bit of club stuff, also college stuff. So to be back involved with, you just look at there's a certain step up, and there's the players really want to be there. You know, there's everybody's there. 45 minutes before. Some of the players are there before you arrive, even for training and stuff. So there's a real professional attitude to what is obviously an amateur sport, but you can see just that these guys really want to get to the next level.
Is that an Armagh specific thing at the moment, Oisín, or is that just with under-20s in general?
I think it's with under-20s in general, and anybody who looks at the physique and the conditioning of the under-20s and think back to Roscommon and Offaly last year and think about the physical demands that were on both those teams and what was a game played at absolutely ferocious pace. But think about how these lads are going to progress into the senior ranks, and it's pretty good experience as far as that's concerned. And I think the fact that they're involved in that county setup in the first place, but also football-wise and getting used to being able to take information on board and all that sort of thing. So it is a good springboard for anybody who wants to play inter-county football. I certainly don't think that's just in Armagh. I think that's across a lot of counties.
What's your role at training yourself?
I take the majority of the on-field stuff. Barry O'Hagan, who's along with me, he does a lot of the logistics organisation, and he's a very organised individual, and I'm probably the counter to that. I do all the not all the pitch stuff, the majority of pitch stuff, and that's what I like doing. That's the thing I've had a hunger to do for some time. As much as management is the position you find yourself in, even at club level. For myself, I'm obviously with Enniskeane and Mullen, and I find myself in there as manager. The part I really enjoy is, like, I know you hear this all the time. I was actually listening to an interview with David Moyes the other day, and he said, what's the best part of the job? And he says, undoubtedly, when you're just out on the pitch, and you're just dealing purely with football issues when you're out there, and that's the thing that I like doing, and I suppose the people who like coaching just like to be out there for that hour and a half or whatever it is, and try and get those things across and try and bring them into the weekend, and hope that some of those things are taken on board, and you can see some semblance of improvement in week to week.
How much has what you do on the training ground changed from when you first started coaching? I guess your first job was with Crossmaglen, I guess, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, I suppose I had college experience for last maybe 11 or 12 years, so
sure.
I went into that quite early, but again, it's completely different. It's a lot more part-time for players and that. So how has my coaching changed? I suppose it's more game specific than it ever has been, because you don't need to waste that much time anymore with with the conditioning side of things. I mean, the majority of players are ready to train, and that's some testament to those players. Like, in fairness, like I remember, and could have even been one of those guys at times where you come back after a winter break and there's a bit of work to be done in order to get you to even to the level that you're able to train, and so we're not wasting a huge amount of time on that anymore, which is brilliant. So you can be a lot more game specific. So the three areas of the game which probably are most important is the restarts or the kickouts, the transition and the finishing end of things. So they're the three areas that you mainly work on. But we try and, if you have the opportunity and you have the time, you can break that down even further. But very much game specific for me. From probably we started late December, so probably since the middle of January. It's been very game specific and trying to get these guys to think about playing in a slightly different way than they've been accustomed to.
I'll pick one specific tactical question out of the air then. Your goalkeeper, is he going to be running up the pitch? Is he going to be supporting play? Or have you got a hard and fast rule on that as a coach?
We're lucky that both goalkeepers that we have actually, but in particular Shea McGill, who's in goals for us, he has a bit of experience. He's already played in the Ulster Championship against Monaghan last year, so he has a vast array of experience, and we tend to let him. Well, this is the line that I give him anyway. Is that he's it's very much up to himself as far as how far he wants to go out the field. But usually, if he crosses the 45, you usually hear me bellowing from the sideline. Because as much as I'm trying to be as progressive as I can, and it's sort of there's still that old school mindset somewhere stuck in the back of my head.
It's kind of been. I feel the argument has changed a little bit over the last month. It feels like last summer you definitely would have been accused of being old school, for example, of saying that, whereas now it's like, no, the new way of thinking is that you can't go beyond your 45.
And all that took was one Rory Beggan got turned over a few times and Kerry punished him. But I think it's something that's definitely going to be here to stay. I think there's certain goalkeepers who are obviously taking it to the next level, and there's certain goalkeepers that are very much capable of taking it to the next level. But I do think there's a happy medium, and I also think that if a goalkeeper is a lot more comfortable, if you've got a goalkeeper who's like a really good shot stopper and his distribution is very, very good, I think a lot of managers are now, more than happy that he spends a bit more time in his actual goals than he does, out the field. But the day of him just standing on his lane and taking the kickouts that's long gone. I even see the conditioning of the goalkeeper. I spent a lot of time, I think, today talking about the conditioning of young lads, but the conditioning even of the goalkeepers as well, and the way they have transformed, body shape and how much more of the training they take part in than they probably once did, as far as speed off the mark and just general fitness and strength.
I wondered then what you said there a moment ago, just about how you're not doing any S&C with these guys anymore, that they're coming into under 20s just so primed for action. I presume that's just giving these kids so much more of a head start when it comes to the inter-county scene. And maybe in the athletic grounds last Sunday, we saw exact evidence of that. Rian O'Neill versus David Clifford, two lads who had no problem whatsoever seamlessly slotting into a senior team.
Yeah, I think, when, the S&C is all done more or less in their own time, the county has provided a setup that now, that they can prosper in that. I think we're lucky we have Paul Gaffney in with us, who does a lot of the S&C behind the scenes and a little bit of stuff on the pitch and stuff as well. So, they are primed, and I think anybody who watched, the likes of Rian and David Clifford last week, it's probably more the norm now. That's the way most guys who are coming into that setup. Sometimes, people ask me, why certain players haven't made a breakthrough quicker than they have, and sometimes it just comes down to not enough birthdays. People are progressing at a different stage, and some of them take to 22 and 23 before they've probably grown into themselves and are ready to go physically. But there's guys who are obviously ahead of the curve when it comes to that, and the two guys you named are well ahead of that curve, and and also the realization now that you just won't survive just purely on conditioning and how you fill the jersey, but also the fact that you have to be adept at playing football now too.
If you were Armagh senior manager, where would Rian be playing at the moment? Or it just feels sort of that there's a Michael Murphy-esque debate that started to emerge around Rian, that he's so good close to goal, and then like I was there on Sunday and he was coming out in front of us around the 45 quite a bit, still very effective out there. So I'm not sure what you're thinking yourself when you see that.
Well, I think if I look at the first two games of the league and I look at the fact that we played the Dubs, and the Dubs will give you an opportunity to play a little bit more, I think, Certainly around that time they were anyhow, and I think the fact that he was positioned at full forward for most of the game tells you everything you need to know. And then we played Tyrone in Armagh the following day, and you're in Armagh the weekend, so you realise that it's slightly more condensed, and it even feels more condensed. It probably feels more condensed than it actually is when you're in Armagh. So I think then, when you're playing against a team that puts a lot of bodies behind the ball, I think he'll get very frustrated very quickly in there. So I think that's when the rotation has to happen. But looking in an ideal world, in my ideal world, Murphy would be full forward and Rian would be playing the majority of his time at full forward. But the way the game is now, you could spend a lot of time in there and not see much ball. So I think he's probably even at the stage where he's dictating a lot of where he ends up himself, considering the amount of ball he gets early on. But floating between the middle of the field and full forward, I'd be happy enough with it at the minute.
I presume you would have experienced something not dissimilar to that level of patience that's required to just stay inside and to just wait for your moment.
Yeah, but it's got a lot worse since I was playing. I mean, like the thing with forwards and particularly corner forwards now is that they almost need to make the most of every single opportunity that they have. I think that opportunities were coming along a lot thicker and a lot faster, when I played. So, there was the opportunity to kick an odd wide here and there, or maybe not just have that first touch that you normally have. But now it seems to be just, magnified every little mistake that you make in there, and it's probably an unforgiving place to play now. But the importance of having somebody that's willing to stay in there and maybe only see, 3-4 balls in each half of the game, is those sort of guys are worth their weight in gold. And I often looked at Tyrone down through the years, or maybe not down through the years, but for 7 or 8 years there. And I always thought the only thing they're missing is just one, top class forward away from winning an All-Ireland. And McCurry filled that void last year because he was exactly what it said in the thing. He just wanted to score. You know what I mean? He just wanted to be in the end of things. And if you have somebody in there who's sort of a little bit selfish like that, because everybody all of a sudden, I felt 3 and 4 and 5 years ago, everybody had gone from wanting to get in the end of things to wanting to be the provider, to wanting to be, to pull the strings at 11 or whatever, on the half forward line or middle of the field. I mean, I remember jumping on a bus going to a college match one day, and I didn't know a lot of the players on the bus. So I just asked them to fill out a form and see what the preferred position was. And I had 28 in the bus, and 19 of them said half back. And the reason why they said half back was because at the time it was a fairly easy position to play, because you could go forward knowing that there was plenty of protection behind you and there wasn't a lot of onus on how you marked man. So football has evolved even more since that, and not that long ago. So just having that player inside who's just that little bit selfish and just wants to be in the end of things and wants to get scores is absolutely essential. And as I say, probably the main reason why Tyrone ended up winning All-Ireland last year, because every time you looked up, there was somebody in the Tyrone full forward line, and it's usually McCurry.
Yeah. Are you looking across at Tyrone this year? Think to yourself they have a similar chance, or have the departures made you reconsider that?
The departures definitely have had an effect now, but I do think that a lot of the young lads, in fairness, who have come in an environment that probably wasn't as great as some of the boys in the past, in that, there's Tyrone are still seen to be playing catch up as far as fitness and that goes. But some of the young lads have been, like Monroe and a few of those guys who have come in, have been, I think, very, very impressive. And I still think Tyrone have as good a chance as they had last year. I think Tyrone had at different times had a large slices of luck. I mean, Monaghan could have beat them in an Ulster final. So, but I still think Tyrone have a great chance again this year, because I actually think that as much as the field hasn't narrowed any as far as the teams that are in contention, I think that it has leveled. If that makes any sense, in that those 5 or 6 teams all seemed to be in and around each other. Like even when it wasn't going well for the Dubs, you never felt they were that far away from, again, just throwing us back into contention. And people would say probably after the last 3 games that they have done exactly that.
Yeah, it's going to be a great season for sure. I just wanted to ask you about the college. You mentioned it a couple of times, and I know this story is about a month old at this point, Oisín, but I'm just keen to chat to you a little bit about it anyway, about what happened with the Trench Cup final. For anybody who missed this, you were manager of DKIT, you are manager of DKIT, and you had to pull out of the final of the Trench Cup because your players were playing that weekend in the National League. It was an unbelievably honest thing to do. I think a lot of people maybe would have talked the talk, not actually walked the walk when it actually came to it. What I'm interested in is what happened afterwards. Was there ever any communication with the powers that be in the competition or anything like that to say, listen, how do we listen to what you're saying here and try and avoid this in the future?
Yeah, we were taken to a disciplinary meeting, and I wasn't at the disciplinary meeting, but we had college representatives there, and they told us in no uncertain terms what they thought of us, and we told them what we thought of the situation, and we were told that there was no way that it would be replayed. Not that we ever dreamt it would. When we made that decision, we knew that was it. It was a terminal thing. It wasn't like a Tyrone last year where it was a bit of a chess move. It wasn't like that. It was we knew that we wouldn't be able to play the game, but there was no way after training and working with guys the whole year that we could go into a game missing 9 players and be expected to play. We've taken a bit of heat. I've taken a bit of heat personally, and I understand there's 2 sides to every story. But from our point of view, we had to look after the players, our players. We had to listen to them, and we had spoken loads of times, because at college level you don't really get a chance to train a lot. I mean, you're not walking these guys. They're being pulled in so many different directions, and along with that, they've got studies, they've got part-time jobs. There's just a lot going on for them, and we actually had done a bit of stuff around mental health and the ability to say no. Probably about 2 weeks before that. So again, as you say, like we had to walk the walk, but the decision itself was purely from the players. We left the decision to the players. What do you want to do? Do you want to go and play with the guys? And to a man, nobody wanted to go. That was including the guys who weren't on inter-county panels or were on inter-county panels. It didn't matter. To a man, every one of them said that they weren't playing without their teammates, and I completely took that on board and completely understood it. But that wasn't my decision. At the end of the day, it had to come from the college, because all I'm doing is I'm doing a job in that college and I'm representing the college. But the decision that came from the players, and then the college made the ultimate decision in the end.
Do you think that you would have got a bit more of a kind of a warm ear had it been Sigerson Cup as opposed to Trench Cup? Did you feel that maybe the fact that it wasn't the top tier competition went against you in terms of being heard out?
No, it just wouldn't have happened at Sigerson level. Right. That's the thing. And the way the Sigerson was planned out, the way it was played on the Wednesday nights, was absolutely ideal for everybody. Give a real opportunity and a chance for young lads to represent the college without interfering with what was going on at inter-county level. As regardless of college or how much sometimes it's hard to stomach, at the end of the day, inter-county football is where it's at, or inter-county hurling. That's what players want to do. They don't want to jeopardize that in any way. You don't want to jeopardize that for them. But I think the big thing is that it was facilitated in a certain way for Sigerson, and that wasn't passed down through to Trench Cup. So I mean, it's not a question, because it just wouldn't have happened.
Yeah. And what sort of heat did you take?
Well, my integrity was questioned and all those sort of things, and that we were looking to move, and we knew exactly what it was when the competition started. We did, but we had flagged this up very, very early, as we had done a number of years ago. We'd flagged it up early. Actually, a number of years ago, we flagged it up that early that it was changed. It wasn't a new problem, and we felt that there was a great opportunity to change it, but that never happened, and there was an acceptance on our part that it wasn't going to happen as much as it was disappointing.
And do you think that change could happen in the next couple of years, like to save this college season? Because it seems that this has become quite a talking point regularly now.
Yeah, and look, it'd be different if it wasn't a fairly simple fix. I mean, just run both competitions in parallel with each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems that it's fairly straightforward. Listen, Oisín, great chatting to you. You were speaking at the launch of the 2022 EirGrid GA Football Under-20 All-Ireland Championship. He is, of course, the Armagh Under-20 manager, Oisín McConville. EirGrid, Ireland's grid operator, is charged with delivering a cleaner energy future for Ireland. Oisín, take care. Good to chat to you.
Oh, and thank you.